President, why don't you guys talk about something that matters? I'm happy to answer questions that matter.
That's the White House press corps peppering President Biden when he arrived home about this picture of him fist bumping the Saudi crown prince. Of course, this is the same man, President Biden, then candidate Biden, who called MBS a killer 2 years ago, and the same regime, the Saudis, he promised to turn into a pariah state. President Biden's right here. The press should talk about something that matters. We need the Saudis a lot more than they need us right now. The president did what he could overseas. That said, perhaps he should be thanking the press and be happy with the question. Think about all the things they could have asked him about. He faces a number of real crises explained by noted liberal CNN commentator Fareed Zakaria. Democrats need to once more become the party that gets stuff done, builds things, and makes government work for people. That's a lot more important to most Americans than using the right pronouns. Zakaria was roundly dragged for that by members of the Democratic Party. The headlines this weekend all blame Democratic Senator Joe Manchin for Biden's failures on everything from climate to his social agenda. Chris Hahn is here, the aggressive progressive. Can't anyone in the Democratic Party admit that Joe Manchin's representing the people of the state of West Virginia who don't want any of this stuff?
I admit that all the time. Well,
that's why we have you here.
Why are we getting so mad at Joe Manchin? Why aren't we trying to get some moderate Republicans or even retiring Republicans that might want to see some of this stuff and who have said throughout their career they support efforts to reduce climate change and global warming and other things of that nature? Why aren't we going after them? I guess because in this environment, people have just dug in and we're not getting a lot of bipartisan things done, although the president was successful in getting that infrastructure bill done earlier this year, which was an achievement of itself because it had bipartisan support. So, yes, I get it. Joe Biden is a West Virginia Democrat, the only person that could probably be elected as a Democrat in West Virginia. And while a lot of my friends on the left are getting very mad at him, I happen to know that he's a vote for my former boss, Chuck Schumer, for majority leader, and not a vote for Mitch McConnell, and a vote for the vast majority of Biden's judicial nominees and the vast majority of his agenda. So I will give him a pass. And I will say we need to work harder to elect more Democrats. And I think we're going to elect one in Pennsylvania, maybe even one in Ohio.
It's funny, it's funny you say that. Dem Senate race, Senate races this quarter. Arizona, Mark Kelly, wildly outraising Blake Masters, who's the likely or possible nominee. John Fetterman in Pennsylvania that you mentioned, he's raised $10 million. Dr. Oz, only $1.6 million. Yeah. New Hampshire, Maggie Hassan, Democrat, raised $5 million. Chuck Morse, $500,000. In Georgia, the governor's race, Stacey Abrams raised $49.6 million. Not a lot from Georgia. Almost double that of Brian Kemp. Where's the enthusiasm in the Democratic Party coming from, or is it fear?
Oh, I think it's enthusiasm for good candidates. I think candidates matter. I happen to think Stacey Abrams is the reason why we have the majority in the United States Senate today. I think she's a fantastic spokeswoman for issues that are important to rank and file Democrats in her state. And I think she's got an excellent chance of winning. And quite frankly, I think that Herschel Walker's helping Stacey Abrams in Georgia. And I know that's kind of backwards thinking.
It makes perfect sense. Still, though, Democrats are going to have to deal with this issue that Fareed Zakaria pointed out. And even within the Biden administration, there's not seemed to be a tightening down on the sort of most extreme, shall we say, culture wars issues. Here's Rachel Levine of the Biden administration's health service.
We really want to base our treatment and to affirm and to support and empower these youth, not to limit their participation in activities and sports, and even limit their ability to get gender affirmation treatment in their state.
It does not play well with Democrats in West Virginia. It doesn't play well with soccer moms in Pennsylvania, nor does it play with them in Georgia. Why this intensity 6 months out of the election and this real lack of discipline? Is the progressive left that powerful?
No, the media loves talking about these wedge issues that get people excited. It doesn't even show up in polling, quite frankly. I think the Democrats can be, good on these issues and also work towards a better economy. And I think they are doing both of those things. I think the problem is that the right, which has absolutely no solutions on the economy, they just have complaints about the economy, want to drive these wedge issues into the electorate. And quite frankly, the press is feeding right into it.
Oh, but Chris, this isn't Fox News. That was MSNBC that can't wait to do this interview and talk about it. Certainly, they have to realize that for swing voters, this isn't a winning issue for people they support.
This is not, look, anybody who cares about this issue is never voting for a Democrat anyway. So I'm a big believer. You talk to the people who you can convince. And I'm sorry, if you're somebody who's not going to vote for somebody because they want to be accommodating to people's gender and their pronouns, they are never voting for a Democrat anyway. Don't even chase them. It's not worth your time. The people who you can get are people who want to talk about bread and butter, meat and potato issues. And you've got to do a job at you have to do a better job at focusing on all of that, or at least making sure they understand you are.
Well, there you go. It's the economy, stupid. You've said that. You said that for a while now. Yeah. It's good to see you. Thank you.
Since I worked on the Clinton campaign in 1992 at 19 years old.
You had to get in that you were 19. We'll double check their age records. Good to see you. Thank you.
Nice to see you too.
All right. Thanks for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to subscribe. Click the red button to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.